Oh, we could put the hashtag. Oop, we're live. Hey guys, Evan's here.
Oh, you know we're
Oh my
real
goodness,
people,
it's been a
I'll
while
tell you
since we
what.
chat. But Alyssa and I have been talking, and we're gonna actually go live pretty much weekly, except for I don't know, maybe we'll do it early next week, but definitely not on Thanksgiving Day. And then after that, we're gonna go through some things to start realizing there's a need to have some conversation around like metabolism and understanding the diets that are out there, and some of those things. And we'll look at that, and we're also going to talk about movement. So instead of cooking with Evans, it's going to change from cooking with Evans to coaching with Evans. Sometimes it'll be me and Alyssa, it'll be me, Tina on there on the nutrition side as well. Other times, my team, don't tell them yet, but I'm going to pull the team in, and they're going to be sharing some of their insight and knowledge, because we have some pretty high level experts in their fields, so you'll be able to
Mhm.
hear their voice about movement and exercise, and some of the cool stuff. But today we're going to just talk about like how to navigate Thanksgiving. We know Thanksgiving can be very stressful, and so in the holidays there are a lot of different things that can impact how you deal with things. So as we think about holidays and holiday stress, so maybe, instead of kind of, I want to do a little bit different. I was going to tell you to like talk, but what are some of the stressors that you guys have experienced growing up, maybe, or you've seen some of
Yeah.
the guys experience when it comes to holidays and holiday stress?
So I think a big one is for whoever is in charge of making the food. Usually there's one person who sort of takes the helm of like, I am the cooker. In my family, it's me, but it's just me and my husband, so I get to kind of have fun and do whatever I want. But with family members, I've noticed like, okay, sometimes they're stressed to like get it perfect, or you invite other people over and you're worried about like, okay, well, are they gonna like the food? And you're cooking for 8 hours a day. A day, like literally 8 plus hours. And it can be kind of like all on you, a little bit stressful to make sure that you get everything right, everything's out on time and warm on time. These are the little things that, might go through your brain as you're cooking Thanksgiving to make sure the day ends up really well.
Yeah, for me, it was not the food as much as the people and, the house and all those kind of things. But remember the purpose, right? The purpose is spend time with your family and your loved ones,
Mhm.
and and do those kind of things. So, I think, part of managing stress is managing our mindsets, and that's kind of like my
Mhm.
jam. When it comes to mindsets, I believe that it's about like agreements versus expectations. Spent a lot of time with one of the people that coached me for a while, Tiffany, and that's her thing. It's like, hey, we live on agreements, not
Mhm.
on expectations, and mismanage expectations where a lot of times we get in trouble, right? So, or the conflict begins. Oh, I thought you would have noticed I did all this cooking, and I expected you to do the dishes. Well, I never agreed to do the dishes, and then
Right.
there's a bomb that goes off. So set the agreements early in communication as you're scheduling it out, and not just agreements with others, because as you're looking to lose weight, or fit your clothes better or have more energy, it may be agreements with yourself.
Yeah.
What am I choosing to do during that day? And the mindset and how you go after it is going to look a little bit different, in there. A huge component in there is structuring your day, so ensuring that you have a plan, and how that plan looks different is going to be different for different people. So let's talk about the beginner. If you're a beginner, what are some things that you can do to help structure your day, to be successful?
Well, one of the first ones is, eating normally throughout the day, I would say. Have breakfast, have lunch, don't try to hold it all for dinner. I think a lot of people try to do that, but get in a good amount of protein for breakfast. Eat like you normally would with your goals in mind. That way, you know, you're not going to be super starving once you get into Thanksgiving and maybe overindulge without really needing to.
Yeah, absolutely. Other things that we look at, for the beginner, are things like, well, for everyone, is to exercise.
Mhm.
For me, but maybe a handful of clients are going to come in here on Thanksgiving. TJ's coming in, and we're going to work out from 7 to 8. So we're going to work out, first thing in the morning, and get that in to get some, exercise in there.
Mhm.
Also like, ensuring, especially for the beginner, to drink water.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
drink water and eat whatever you want. Like there's different, if you're brand new and things like that, depending on where you are in your cycle, unless you have like a bodybuilding show you're shooting for, the reality is that you're going to gain a little bit of weight after Thanksgiving. Your brain is going to
Mhm.
kick on. It's kind of like a homeostasis, the way it works, or this balancing that your body wants to do. And we'll talk more about that, either later in the year or beginning next year. It'll rev up your metabolism to burn the extra calories that you ate on Thanksgiving, provided that the day
Mhm.
after Thanksgiving doesn't look like Thanksgiving. So what does that mean? On Thanksgiving, enjoy yourself, and then the next day, eat sensibly. We'll talk about that, but stop when you are full. Like you're
Mhm.
proving a point. This is not a contest, so just stop when you're full. Just before you can feel good about yourself, on there. And, it goes right into this idea of enjoying yourself on the day of Thanksgiving. Now, one thing that you do quite a bit, Alyssa, is, when you're cooking, you actually talked about this with me earlier in the week. You
Yeah.
started about this idea of like this extra prepping stuff.
Yeah, so, I figure my mindset is if I'm gonna spend 8 hours in the kitchen or more, I think our turkey is gonna take 7 hours itself this time. I'm gonna cook some extra food. That way, I don't have to cook over the weekend and I don't have to do meal prep for the next week. So we buy like there's only 2 of us this year, like we don't have family or friends coming over, but we bought a ham, we bought a really big turkey, and I have plans to cook additional food that will still serve my goals since I'm gonna be in the kitchen anyway. That way I'm just utilizing that time to the best of my ability, and then over the weekend, I don't know about you guys, but probably gonna be busy over the weekend. Usually Thanksgiving weekend afterwards, you're still spending time with family and that sort of thing. So saves you a little bit of time and a little bit of stress of having to prepare for the next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I want to stress enjoy yourself. Yeah. So the way, we navigate that meal is going to look different. We talked about the beginner, getting that water in, stopping when you're full. Sometimes there are people that are like, they're feeling stuck. Maybe you're in your journey, and being at that stuck state is not a bad thing. The way what messes our minds up is the way all marketing is taught, right? You drop 500 calories times 7 days, 3,500 calories. A pound of fat is 3,500 calories, right? But a pound of fat is not the 500-calorie deficit that you lost, because the 500-calorie deficit could be carbs, could be protein, could be fats. And how your body processes that is an entire different process than just this
Hmm.
numbers on the scale or in a math equation. But what
Right.
happens is your body works more like a range. So I've had myself and even clients who made a 100-calorie difference and then just start cutting weight like crazy because they just got into a different range. And similarly,
Hmm.
we had people who were following their meal plan fairly consistently, but they had the little chocolate, the little chocolate bar, at night, and another night they had a
Hmm.
handful of almonds, and another night they had a little of this, and only like 100 to 200 calories. It wasn't enough to really track, but their plan doesn't work and they're not losing weight.
Right.
So because your body works more like a thermostat, when it becomes 67 degrees, if it's set at 65, it doesn't start kicking on heat right away, or doesn't kick on the AC. Or if it was at, for heat, when it hits 63, it doesn't kick on the heat. It lets it get down a little bit, and then it pushes out a little bit more
Hmm.
in there. So realize that you may be in the stuck state, or you may be like very concerned state. That's both the same. There are some tips and tricks you can use. We'll put a link in our pages, where you can get some of these things. But one of the things is like Glucose Health is a supplement that I take that help me
Hmm.
control the insulin response to the carbohydrates. And then also Carb Blocker, which blocks my the sugars and starches that I consume before I eat it. But other things I'd recommend for those who do drink alcohol is to like control that.
Hmm.
So if you're going to drink alcohol, control it. Watch out for the sugar stuff in there, because not that sugar is bad, but it is calories. And when
Mhm.
alcohol is in your body, whole nother conversation we'll have in the future, but your body
Yeah.
doesn't act the same way. It doesn't burn
Mhm.
calories the same way with alcohol in your system. So that's something you want to be mindful of, through there. As you may see a common theme of water, 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 water. And then, for the advanced people, and you know you eat your food, and then you may only like use, you know like small plates, so you may use
Mhm.
desserts, and this was someone, again, that's on the deep end of cutting, that they may be watching for some of those different things, but for
Mhm.
any extra servings, so here's a good trick or strategy, right? Your first plate has in it like whatever meats and everyone, and then whatever carbs you want. You has
Mhm.
your macaroni and cheese, and it has your, all the stuff on the first plate.
Mhm.
You notice I said the first plate because Thanksgiving is one of those. It's not like a meal; it's like an adventure.
I love that. It
It's
is
like
an
a
adventure.
journey of food. It's not like one meal. At least for me, it's not. The second plate has less carbs, less starchy carbs, a little bit more vegetables in there. I'm kind of paying attention to what's happening, a little bit more as I'm going through the journey. So if you look at my first plate, you're like, whoa. And the second plate, I'm like, okay, let me kind of phase it in because it's all going to add up.
Mhm.
The key, though, is to have a plan after Thanksgiving. So whatever happens that day, it's kind of like, you're forgiven. Romans 8:1 kicks in. There's no condemnation, right? So life is good, right?
Truth.
Now we need to go into Thanksgiving with a post Thanksgiving plan.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a plan after Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving becomes the weekend, and then the next
Mhm.
week you're gonna have a Christmas party. Like,
Very true.
if you go into it, what's your plan to get back on track, and what does get back on track look like for you? Or what plan should look like is, hey, let me plan out what foods I'm gonna eat. Now we have different people that we coach, and the way we coach them looks differently. For some people,
Mhm.
they're just eating, like predominantly whole foods and being protein minded in their whole food
Mhm.
intake, meaning that, for your meals, you may be looking at your palm and you're going, okay, I need to have a palm or a palm and a half worth of protein in all my major meals, and I'm supplementing with a shake here and a bar there. That's some of our clients. Some
Mhm.
people, they're weighing and measuring, specifically. Some people we have in what we call habituated eating. What that means is, the world calls it intuitive eating, but I don't think eating, like listening to my body and what my body desires. My body never not desires cookies or um God's food. What's God's food? They call it manna, but today we call it pizza. I don't ever like,
I wasn't expecting that. Oh, that was
yeah,
funny.
that's Evan's, 5 and 1, as my wife always
Manna,
says, that's
but
my own like
pizza.
insert. But think about it, it's bread dough from heaven, you know what I mean? Everybody wants more dough, nobody wants more like, potato. They always want more dough. So anywho, my body never not wants those things. So I can't listen to my body. And if you throw chocolate somewhere in there, I can't no, I have to create habits, but there's a space where you're not weighing and measuring anything, and you're able to maintain and even move closer to your goals because
Mhm.
you've had habituation, habit development. And so some people are there and they're just following their habits. So whatever the plan is and whatever you're doing, the next day you can do that. The cool thing is that you may have some great foods from Thanksgiving, according to what Alyssa said, and you can put it into the habit structure.
Mhm.
So, now one important thing that nobody wants to do
No,
is weigh
no
yourself
one.
the day after Thanksgiving. But
Yeah.
it's a critical step. And the reason why it's so important to weigh yourself the day after Thanksgiving is it gives you a reference point.
Yeah. Mhm.
So what do you see? If you did Thanksgiving right, I mean, well, I'm gonna say right or wrong, but if I know
If
I
you
will eat,
celebrated Thanksgiving
yeah,
and
some
filled it with
food.
joy of
Yeah.
food.
How much weight are you seeing people gain, Alyssa, like the next day?
Oh, easily 5 to 6 pounds, maybe more. I know, yeah. 5 to
I'd say
6 pounds, definitely more.
3 to 5 pounds is what I see most often, right? But by the following week, most people's like 3 days later, they're actually weighing, are they weighing more or less on their side or the same as their pre-Thanksgiving weight?
Um, so well, it depends on the person, but sometimes definitely less. I mean, you
Mhm.
can get down below farther, and it's kinda shocking. It's like, "Oh my goodness, wow." I dropped 4 pounds in 3 days.
Yeah,
Yeah, it can be kind of a sticker shock on the scale.
I love it. It gives people this idea that there's hope. Many times
Mhm.
we serve, right? Like food, nutrition, this whole like journeys actually become like a torturous process of why
Yeah.
can't I ever lose weight and what's wrong with me and my body? And people have
Mhm.
used the scale as a way to even build their identity around it, and they're afraid of the scale. They're not afraid to get their blood pressure taken, you know, which is like one of the number one indicators if you're going to die early. But they're afraid of the scale,
Yeah.
because we've demonized weight. But when they see their weight, we're seeing that they see their weight and it's like, oh, okay, I gained 3 pounds. Well, what was the 3 pounds? Well, you probably didn't poop out everything you ate the day before,
Yeah,
right?
for sure, for
Yes.
sure.
So it's bolus. It's this food that you ate that's being processed through your body.
Mhm.
So that's some of it. You probably stored some
Wow.
glycogen. So you stored some sugar in your muscles and things like that. Or in your liver. And then some of it is fat. Some of it's food. So you got all the stuff that you consumed, and then 2 days later, you've excreted it all.
Mhm.
Key is go right back to what you ate before. Now, how do
Absolutely.
you do that? This is sometimes hard on your heart, depending on how you grew up. If you grew up in a household like mine, we were broke all the time, and so it was like, you better eat that food. You're grateful you got it. I worked my tail off to get that food. Well, don't worry, there's going to be more food available for the next day. So either give it away or toss it away.
Mhm.
Find ways to put restrictions. If you like my wife makes this delicious apple crisp thing. It's
Ooh,
basically it's baked apples with like cake mix on top. And
that sounds so good.
it's ridiculous. We do it with ice cream. I do the lactate so I don't offend anybody.
Oh.
But it's so good. And but when that portion is done on Thanksgiving, I don't
Mm.
eat it the day after. And some people do other little things, and so you just got to get rid of it. You got to toss it. You got to realize that it's easier. This is a real good tip, whether it's Thanksgiving time or not Thanksgiving. It's either easier to avoid than it is to
Yeah,
resist.
absolutely.
And the more fatigued you are, the more challenging it is to resist. So just avoid
Mhm.
it. And the key with all this, I know I said it 1,000 times already, you know, it is to hydrate. So as we wrap up here, I know we were talking about some things prior to this, but any like wrap up thoughts that maybe we can give people to kind of help them navigate this journey in here. And then we're always open to questions, that people may have.
Absolutely. Well, I think, one thing is, like, giving yourself grace and love and forgiveness during the holidays, because I think sometimes you may think of food and, like, a good food versus bad food, like, "This is bad for me. This is, bad for my goals," but there's no such thing as bad food, and the purpose of the holiday is to be with your loved ones and celebrate the things that you're grateful for. So give yourself like allow that to be an act of love for you, and then just get back on track the next day, and you'll be good. One day is not going to get in the way of reaching your goals, at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Powerful thought. And, I would say, that's that space of like self love. If you love yourself and you walk in that space of like, hey, I love who I am, then everything you're doing is to support that journey
Mhm,
versus I hate who I am. So I'm doing all this stuff to like be somebody I'm not. Like no matter what
mhm.
you are or who you are you. So if you operate out of that space of love of self, it's easier to love your neighbor and everybody else throughout the journey. So I think
Mhm.
that's a huge thing to look at is like, hey, give yourself that grace, have a great time, and
Mhm.
stop Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving. Cool.
Yes.
So feel free to, message us and ask us questions and some of this stuff. We will be coming, live and doing some more things in here, but we wanted to give people those quick tips and hopefully
Mhm.
they help them, to navigate successfully through Thanksgiving in the future. So talk to you soon and have a great Thanksgiving. I don't know how to say it in
Yeah.
German, you know, it's probably
I don't think
Guten.
they do Thanksgiving over here because it's an American holiday.
It sure is.
So
It's one of my favorite holidays. Celebrates the free
me
enterprise,
too.
and all the other good stuff. But I'm gonna stay away from that for today because it's just about nutrition. But
I love Thanksgiving.
yeah,
It's my
go Thanksgiving.
favorite.
I'm excited to hear what happens, internally here with all the sports fans. But I don't really care who,
Oh,
but it's gonna be great. So you can use the same tips for Christmas. There's enough time in between the two, so you can use the same tips for Christmas as well. So talk to you guys in a bit and have a great day.